Neuro-Linguistic programming, or NLP, is like this new age version of thought control, in my opinion. We're just enjoying our breakfast as we get started here, so sorry for all the noise. Okay, I did a whole video on the background of NLP and why I think it's kind of a scam, which you can watch right here if you haven't already. Today, I'm coming back at you with a part 2. So what's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. Hi if you're new here, hi if you're not. Today, we're going to be exploring what the actual techniques of NLP are, and we're going to take a look at how the practitioners of this pseudoscientific therapy can utilize these techniques in order to manipulate. If that sounds good to you, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Huge shout out to my VIP channel members, Lisa Loading and Pablo Eater. If you're interested in learning about my membership, you can click the join button down below. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. NLP, though initially developed as a form of therapeutic practice, much like any of the good things in this world, has since been taken and used for malicious intent. And so by definition, the act of manipulating is to control or influence a person or situation cleverly, unfairly, or unscrupulously. And so essentially, a manipulator tends to prey on people's guilt, fear, or greed in order to get a self-serving result. And so in the case of the use of NLP, it's usually for control or influence. And so if we think about some of the common themes that I share in many of my videos here on this channel, things like the self-serving narrative, the narcissistic tendencies, those acting in self-interest, the desire of many people to be at the top, the most successful, so wealthy, idolized by everyone. What better way to achieve these things that we desire than by using psychological tools that are going to allow us to manipulate other people in our favor? As it turns out, NLP is grounded in the principles of being able to form strong connections with others. And so the practice of NLP is built on 4 pillars: communication skills, sensory awareness, outcome-driven thinking, and behavioral versatility. Some even refer to NLP as like a mild hypnosis. And what NLP essentially boils down to is the ability to effectively communicate with self and with others. And there are many techniques used in NLP, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to discuss 5 common NLP practices as outlined by the King Grifter himself, Mr. Tony Robbins. I will then discuss how these techniques can then be used to manipulate people into the favor of the NLP practitioner's self-interest. So for today, we're going to talk about imagery training, NLP Swish, modeling, mirroring, and incantations. And so if you are ready for this and you're feeling excited, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so first up we have imagery training, also sometimes called mental rehearsal. And it's one of the more classic NLP techniques that's sort of rooted in visualization. I think that's probably pretty obvious with a name like imagery training. And so the key is to create this like highly detailed image in your mind of you completing whatever the thing is that you want to do. But further than just like imagining yourself doing it, you're also supposed to like embody the body language and picture the body language you would have to really feel the sense of confidence and pride you would have in doing that thing. And practices like this are also really common in the world of manifestation. If you haven't watched my video about why I don't believe manifestation is real, I would recommend you go and check that one out too. NLP techniques, particularly like this one, are used for creating this absolute sense of certainty in you and your ability to accomplish the things that you desire. Now, in terms of how this technique could be used in the context of manipulation, I think that this could play out in a few different ways. So for example, let's pretend I'm the coach and you are the unknowing individual. You desire result X in your life, and so I invite you to come and sit down with me and to start to visualize this next level version of yourself. I guide you through the process of how that would look and how it would feel so that you can start to really embody this person that you desire to be. Now, is this practice in itself particularly harmful? No, I don't think so. I know that many athletes, performers, and successful people have been using visualization to accomplish the things that they have accomplished in their lifetime. It has been proven scientifically for decades that it works. But here's where I take issue. And this sort of ties into sales psychology, particularly in the coaching space. And I know this because I was literally taught this technique. So when you're on a sales call, if you can start to guide the person on the other end of the Zoom, the phone, wherever you're talking, through a series of questions to which the answer is yes, you are going to be much more likely to be able to close them at the end of that call, aka get them to buy whatever it is you're selling, because you've built this positive rapport, because they've been nodding along and agreeing with you and really feeling like they're connecting with you through saying yes to all of your questions. They have this positive association to you and whatever it is you're selling. So similarly, if we go back to this example where I'm the coach, you're the unknowing participant, I'm walking you through this visualization, getting you to really feel and understand what it would look like if you achieved all that you desire, the likelihood of you buying into my private coaching, my course, my mastermind, whatever it is I'm selling, that's promising you the opportunity to actually achieve that result that you've just envisioned is much, much higher. And so while it's maybe not a direct form of manipulation as we might think, I certainly believe that this imagery training is a tool that could be used in a form of manipulation. But I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, next up, we have the NLP Swish. And the NLP Swish is essentially a technique where you take the thing that you don't desire and you swap it for the thing that you do desire. And so again, you start by kind of visualizing the thing that you don't want and you bring it to mind and make it really big and really bright. And then at the same time, you start to make an image in your mind of the thing you do want, but you make it small and kind of dull. And then you make them switch places. So you start to bring to mind the image of the thing that you really want as the thing that you don't want starts to kind of fade into the background. And then you basically just repeat this technique 3 to 5 times usually. And so the thought here is that you'll be able to retrain your brain to amplify positive thoughts and turn negative thoughts into this dull, colorless thing that doesn't really exist. Do I believe this actually works in the long term? Not really. Now, do I think this practice could be used in a similar way that we talked about imagery training being used to manipulate people into convincing them that you have the solution to make all those positive things come true for them? Absolutely yes. With many of these techniques, I sort of see them as this tool for priming, in that they offer people this sort of short-term feel-good solution, which then primes them to be the perfect candidate to say yes to this long-term program coaching solution that can bring you that feeling all the time. But again, I'd love to hear what you think about this. Okay. Next, we will talk about modeling. Now, this one is essential in the personal development, life coaching, business coaching space. And the principles of modeling are based in the law of attraction, which again, in my opinion, is a complete grift and is really talked about in the manifestation circles. And so the thought behind modeling is that essentially whatever you draw your focus on or pay attention to is what you as an individual get drawn towards. So in the context of manipulation, what these people will do is they will convince you that in order for you to elevate your life, you have to start to model the characteristics of those that you desire. And how do you do that, you might ask? You get into their energy. You need to surround yourself with the people who have achieved the things that you desire and then focus on modeling their behaviors. How do you do this, you might be wondering? Well, you find a mentor, you pay to be in their energy, you join a mastermind group, and so on and so on and so on. Here's some examples of coaches that really kind of perpetuate and encourage this behavior that I found on Instagram. Now, this one was titled something along the lines of How I Make My Yearly Salary in 1 Month. And again, this is just a single slide from a carousel post. It says, I changed my environment. I stopped hanging out with business owners that weren't taking ownership as to why they weren't making money and started getting around people that were crushing. Yes, this meant investing in myself beyond what I thought I could. This also meant doing everything to be the best student, which is why I've always seen an ROI on every single investment. I'm simply not available for average I want the most. What this suggests to me is that this individual has unfortunately been someone that is convinced that the only way to be successful is if you invest in yourself. Again, perpetuating this fallacy that you have to spend a ton of money in order to make a ton of money. And the idea that in order to be able to model other successful people, you have to pay to have that privilege. Which, if you've watched any of my free business content here on my channel, you know this is not true. And there are plenty of ways to get in rooms with people that you want to learn from without having to pay thousands of dollars. Okay, this next one is titled, Why I Paid for a $20,000 Mastermind with a Mentor I was already working with privately. And it says this: I want to be in conversations that I don't even know exist. I want new perspectives. I want to be expanded outside of what I already know. Again, suggesting that the only way to access these life-changing conversations is to fork over $20,000 to be in the energy of these people. Okay, and then lastly, we have a post which was titled How I Went from Burnt Out to Multiple Six Figures. And it says, I invested in long-term mentorship from coaches who had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And I think it goes without saying, each of these examples, in my opinion, demonstrate this narrative of indoctrination that we see in the coaching industry time and time again. And it's this narrative in which people are led to believe that the only way to be successful in business is to invest in the opportunity to be in the energy of people who they deem as more successful than them. And if you missed the interview that I did a couple of weeks ago, the individual that I spoke with actually talks about how she fell prey to one of these schemes. And so tying this back to NLP, I think that these NLP practitioners will use the example of modeling as an opportunity to convince you to buy into their programs. The more role models you have, the more you'll be able to leverage the skills that you have and the more success you're certain to find. But oftentimes, the only way to gain access to those mentors is to spend a ton of money. Again, it's all rooted in self-service. Pay me, be in my energy. I'm so awesome. Everyone deserves to learn from me, but the only way they are able to do that is if they pay me thousands of dollars. Like, this concept doesn't even really make sense to me. Like, if I pay you thousands of dollars and I get to be in your energy, how is that energy going to transfer to me? Like through osmosis? Like what is happening? Okay, next up, let's talk about mirroring. So mirroring, like it sounds, is a behavior in which one person leverages body language in order to build connection and rapport with another person. And the thought is that people are easily persuaded by other people who they see as alike to them. So if I can mirror or mimic your verbal and nonverbal forms of communication, you are more likely to trust me. And this concept was actually taught in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that's what it's called, which has been deemed controversial in many different contexts. A story for another day, perhaps. But in the context of NLP, I think that mirroring really just refers to building rapport with people through nonverbal communication. It's said that somewhere around 55% of all communication is done through body language. And so learning to effectively mirror other people's body language can make you come across as a more trustworthy person. And now, obviously, when used for malicious intent, this can be an incredibly dangerous tool. It can be used by those who are motivated by purely selfish desires as a way to convince someone to do something that's against their own best interests. You know, I'm trustworthy, you can believe me, I have your best interests in mind, you feel comfortable around me, I'm just like you, therefore give me all your money, enjoy my movement. Make sense? Okay, lastly, let's talk about incantations. These are essentially just like a more powerful version of an affirmation. And they're also considered to be one of the more mainstream neuro-linguistic programming techniques. I'm sure you know by now, an affirmation is just like a sentence that you repeat to yourself over and over again that sort of reaffirms your beliefs or your goals. And so this can look like things like, I am worthy of the success that I desire, or I am capable of achieving financial freedom. Now, what incantations do is they take this a step further by incorporating your physiology to really start to feel as though that thing is already true. So rather than just like writing your affirmation 50 times in your journal, the thought here is that you verbalize it out loud and actually start to believe it to be true. I am wealthy, I am worthy, I am successful. And so incantations really center around the idea of self-talk and overcoming limiting beliefs in order to reprogram the mind. Again, much like the imagery training that we discussed earlier, not inherently harmful in itself, but potentially harmful when being led or guided by those with ill intentions. Danielle, you are competent. Danielle, you are successful. Say it, feel it, and now pay me $10,000 to show you how it can be true. Do you see where I'm going with this? And so all this to say, it's my opinion that NLP and its practices can be incredibly manipulative when used in the hands of those motivated by money, being successful, desiring to up-level their success at the expense of others. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will leave you with this video right here next. Bye!